Welcome back, everybody, to the Backstage at Open Highway podcast. I am your host, John Henry. This is episode 14. Excited about it. I sit down with Jay Scherder from St. Louis Arts and the Regional Art Commission. Great guy, great organization, helping so many artists and independent musicians here in St. Louis. Really enjoyed talking to him about everything. The big thing that we're pushing is the Music for a Cause initiative, which Open Highway is proud to be associated with. You'll hear more about it here in this interview that we have coming, but the big thing that I wanted to stress was, as you're hearing this, Friday, May 17th, we are having a St. Louis Arts Open Highway presents Music for a Cause show. So come check it out. It's a free show at the Whiskey Ring, May 17th. Parker Ryan, a really cool artist out of Texas, he was routing up and we were able to fit him into this series that we're putting on. And we're going to be doing this in conjunction with St. Louis Arts and the Music for a Cause initiative. Really thrilled to be a part of it, like I said, and you'll hear a lot more about it. Like I also said, maybe I'll cut this part out of the podcast, maybe I won't. Who knows? Let's get weird. Why don't we just get right into the interview? I hope you like it. Welcome, everybody. We're here with Jay Scherder from St. Louis Arts. How are you, Jay?
I'm great, man.
We've known each other for a while, so we're just going to let the fine people out here know more about St. Louis Arts and Music for a Cause.
Absolutely. Music for a Cause really was a brainchild of the fact that the Regional Arts Commission of St. Louis, which is the largest funder of art in St. Louis, we're publicly funded. We get our money from hotel motel taxes. People come into town, they stay in a hotel or an Airbnb in the city, and we get a small portion of that. Using that money, we directly give money to local artists, arts organizations, arts programs. Well, the pandemic happened, right? So guess what people weren't doing? Staying in hotels.
Yeah.
So we saw our revenue drop, what I would say overnight by 65%. It was a huge hit. And so how do we move forward and put ourselves in a better position for that not to happen again if something like the pandemic were to occur?
Yeah.
So I've been coming up with lots of different ideas, and Music for a Cause is one that I came up with thanks to our partnership with Open Highway Presents and with you, John, where I thought we've got all these amazing local promoters. We've got all these amazing local shows. How do we tap into that? Because local music and local art is our jam. So the idea is really simple. We add $1 to every ticket sold, and that dollar comes to my organization, the Regional Arts Commission of St. Louis, that helps directly support local artists, including musicians here in St. Louis. So we started this, just 2 months ago, something like that, with Open Highway Presents being our inaugural partner, and it's been great so far. And we really hope to expand this. So we've got a lot of people, that are taking part. What I think is really cool is if we can expand this, let's say we can get 10 venues on board or 10 promoters on board, right? Then what we can do is, really make that a marketing tool for St. Louis. Like, hey, you're coming into town, right? You love local music, right? Well, you should see these shows because it actually gives back. People want to be able to give back, and they love giving back when it's an experience. Sure, you can ask for donations.
Yeah.
Some people will give you donations.
Right.
But if you make it so easy for them that they're like, oh yeah, like I'm going to buy tickets for this. A, I love live music, but like B, if I have to choose between venue A and venue B, venue A has Music for a Cause and venue B does not, I'm going to go to venue A. So that's really the whole idea behind it. And it's really exciting to get this going and to see where it goes in the future.
Yeah, I can firsthand comment on how supportive you and your organization are to local independent artists. Um, and to that end, tomorrow, the day you're watching this podcast, May 17th, we are going to be hosting a show at the Whiskey Ring, which is a locally owned bar. Mr. John Jern is co-owner of that, also owns the Whiskey Ring. You have an independent art organization. You guys will be there. And we have Parker Ryan out of Texas as an independent artist who's playing. So it's kind of a mixture of all of those things with this kickoff. And we hope everybody can come out.
Yeah, it's awesome. And obviously we love supporting St. Louis artists, but we love supporting artists. It is a situation where, let's say, an artist is from Texas or Nashville, LA, Chicago, New York. They come to St. Louis and they're like, wow, I had no idea St. Louis had this vibrant music scene, and how many independently owned and operated music venues and promoters there are in this town. And the cost of living is great and people are
Yeah.
friendly. There's a lot to be said about, you know, making a first impression on some of these artists that are coming here from out of town. I something that the Regional Arts Commission of St. Louis wants to eventually get to is figure out how we can attract more artists to move to St. Louis. I'll give you a really good example. So there's a local theater company in town called Stages.
Mhm.
Stages St. Louis. They do incredible work. They operate out of the Kirkwood Performing Arts Center, which is a beautiful venue. They do really cool things. So last year they had a show, Karate Kid the Musical,
Right.
which was great. I mean, it was funny. Beautifully choreographed, some cool songs. But the best part about it, it was a pre-Broadway show. A lot of these Broadway shows, they need to test it somewhere.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they do it still in Chicago or smaller theaters in New York or LA, what have you. So they decided to test it in St. Louis. And the production crew, the writers, the director, they fell in love with St. Louis. They're like, oh my gosh, this place is incredible. Like I had no idea that it was so amazing. And for them to be able to have a test market that they know is receptive to the show that they're doing, the support that we give art and artists in St. Louis, it could start something really great where St. Louis is known as a test market. And what's funny, when you think about consumer products, so many products get tested in St. Louis or Missouri because they see us as this, middle state that has
Yeah.
kind of this temperance of lots of different things. And so a lot of consumer products have known St. Louis as a good test market. If we can get the arts to also recognize that we're a great test market, and then artists realize I should move there. Like I can start my career, I can have a career in St. Louis. And so by supporting local, independent, promoters and venues and whatnot, I think that's part of the puzzle to get more artists to come to St. Louis.
Yeah, and I wanted to touch on one thing that you mentioned earlier, which was the cost of living. I spent a lot of time going to Nashville in the 2010s, writing, meeting agents that I work with, meeting promoters, different things. And at the time, one of the big draws to that market was that it was, you know, inexpensive to live. The cost of living was good. And that's gone away. It's gone away in
Oh
Austin,
yeah.
away in Nashville. And I think that in many ways, St. Louis is a bastion of that, where you can be an independent artist and be able to get by with a roof over your head and food and all of the things that we obviously need to get by. But the cost of living, I think, is a really good thing about St. Louis.
Yeah, and you're, like you said, Nashville's insane now. I mean, Austin's been crazy for a while. I mean, you can't live
Artists
inside
can't live.
Denver. Yeah, you can't live inside Denver proper anymore.
Right.
You see it everywhere. You see it everywhere, right? And don't get me wrong. Sometimes people use that as a crutch to not pay artists what they're worth. Like, well, cost of living is cheap here, so we're
Right.
not going to pay you as much. But I do believe that there is growing momentum um, to pay artists what they're worth. It's certainly something we cherish at the Regional Arts Commission of St. Louis. We want to make sure that people are taken care of because people do sometimes use that as an excuse. And it's a BS excuse. But I get why they do it. But I think that that is starting to turn around in a lot of ways. And you see a lot of the artists that are successful, both well, not both. I mean, visual artists and performing arts, musicians. You are seeing a lot of successful people and a lot of folks that are doing great work and getting noticed both locally, regionally, and nationally. And they still choose to be here. They still decide that I want to be here and I can make a living from here. I can prosper
Right.
here. I just make a living. Like I can prosper here.
You can
And I
thrive.
think that's a
Yeah.
really big thing that, again, with the cost of living conversation and whatnot, you know, we don't want to say, well, it's cheap to live here, but no one will pay it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not what we want. So yeah, so I think it's an important distinction that you know that has to happen. But yeah, I love just exploring and discovering all these artists in St. Louis. I have to admit, before I got this job, I did not know nearly as much as I thought I did about the St. Louis art scene.
Right.
And the amount I've just discovered in the last 2.5 years has been incredible. And the artists and the talent. I mean, I could name so many of them: Maddie Schnell, Beth Bombera, the
Those.
Mighty Pines, who, got a little bit famous because of The Voice.
Yeah.
But there is an incredible amount of talent here
Yeah.
and folks that want to stay here, which
And
is the
with
best part.
the way we consume media now too, and the way we record, um, it's obviously helpful to be in a place if there's a scene and there's a group of people. But on the other hand, with digital and with video and with content, you can be where it is cheap to live. I mean, I think you're
Yeah.
seeing it as well, like with jobs outside of the music profession. You're seeing people, well, if I could work from home, why am I going to be overpaying to be here? Let's move to a place that's reasonable. And I think you also see there's a lot of nice people here in St. Louis.
Yeah.
I think
Man, there are.
I think you see a lot of athletes, or just to use that as an example, that stick around after they're here because people are nice and it's inexpensive to live here in general. But I wanted to see what drives you. What is it the scene itself? Is it seeing independent artists create things? What drives you to be such an advocate for artists here in St. Louis?
Yeah. I mean, certainly as an organization, it's been our mission for the last, it'll be 40 years next year. I mean, we were created to support the arts in St. Louis. People in Missouri, they voted on it. It's part of the Missouri statute, so the mission itself as an organization, I mean, it's in our blood. And it is something that is not just in name. Here's your grant money. We'll see you next year. With our current CEO, she is absolutely a visionary and has put us in a direction. I mean, I would argue we've done more in the last 3 years than we have in the last 15. And that's not a knock on the folks that came before. It's just we are so driven right now to help lift up this community, to rebrand St. Louis as an arts town. Of course, we're a sports town. We all know we love sports. Everyone knows we're a baseball town. But what happens when you infuse the arts with that?
Mhm.
Like, that opens so many doors. But me personally, it's all about these people I've met. In the 2.5 years, the amount of people I've met, the passion that they have, their willingness to
Mhm.
do what they have to do to make St. Louis better every single day. And you just don't see that passion everywhere. And I've never taken a job where I didn't think what I was doing was meaningful. After sort of researching the Regional Arts Commission of St. Louis, when the job opening came about, I'm like, oh my God, this organization is doing it. Like
Yeah.
they're doing the work that needs to be done. And you think about great cities that have great art.
Mhm.
Uh, you think about people that have fully embraced it. I think of places like Cincinnati, and Columbus, Austin, obviously, but I even went to Houston recently, and there are murals
Yeah.
everywhere.
Mm.
Montreal, up in Canada. I mean, you can't take 10 steps in any direction without art hitting you in the face. And so there you've seen success stories of communities that have fully embraced the arts,
Mhm.
that have included that as their pitch to people of why they need to come,
Right.
to their cities. And it works. And
Yeah.
it gives that community a vibrance that other communities don't have if they don't embrace it. You
Yeah,
know,
and you put your money where your mouth is with
yeah,
it. There are people that do things and there are people that talk about things. Anybody can post something on social media, anybody can talk the talk, but you guys walk the walk and support many, many artists and organizations around here, the St. Louis area. We're rolling into summertime, quickly through spring. Are there any art events or concerts this summer that you're looking forward to?
Yeah, I tell you what, John, as I put on my promo voice, people should head over to stlouisarts.org. So, stlouisarts.org is my baby, and it's something we created last year to drive more tourism to St. Louis. There is not there wasn't a single site that you could discover everything in the arts in St. Louis. So we saw that gap, and we realized we need to fill that gap. Like, why are we not
Right.
talking to potential tourists about some of the cool things? I love all of the big institutions in St. Louis that give us so much of our character. I love the St. Louis Art Museum. I love the Muni. I love the Fox. I love going to Hollywood Casino Amphitheater and catching a really big show. Those are all amazing things, and we love them to death. But what about some of the smaller venues that we were talking about?
Right.
What about some of these smaller theater companies and, dance performance companies that we have? Some of these really cool underground, edgy things that so many people want to find. They want to go to a city and they want to feel like they live there, like they know the secret things to go to,
Yeah.
not the
Yeah.
things that are on, all the travel websites. Like, oh,
Right.
go here, go here, go here.
Yeah, off the beaten
They want,
path. Yeah.
yeah, they
Yeah.
want everything to have that speakeasy vibe,
Yeah.
so they can go back and tell their friends
A
and
little
family,
spot.
like,
Yeah.
oh man, I went to, fill in the blank, and I found this really cool place. Like, oh man, I've never been to anything like it before. So we want to sell that, for St. Louis and
Yeah.
all the things we have for the arts. So go, on stlouisarts.org, that is our mission. Our mission is to highlight all of the really cool things. And we just launched a new feature this week. We actually launched a whole new looking website this week,
Yeah.
which has been so much work, but totally worth it. And we have this new search tool called Find Your Vibe, and it's different than a lot of the search tools that you've ever used to try to find things. People come to St. Louis and they go, you know what? I love music, but I don't know how to find it. They're going to Google and typing in live music.
Yeah.
Google Maps is pulling up all kinds of crazy stuff. And, you don't know what kind of music they have or what the vibe is.
Or
Well,
where
that's
you're gonna
where
end
we're
up.
stepping in. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, that's where we're stepping in.
Right.
So people can really dive down into what kind of mood they're in, what kind of vibe they want. Like, I want something real high energy, or no, I want something super chill. Like, that's the mood I'm in right now.
Yeah.
And so we can dive down and they can find the thing that they know they'll love. So, this summer we certainly are excited to partner with a few different festivals. I suppose they're in September. You can barely call it summer, but we have the Evolution Music Festival coming up with the Killers and Beck.
Yes.
Very
Cool.
excited about that. Music at the Intersection is back with Black Pumas, who do such great work.
Awesome.
Shaka Khan. I mean, come on. So we're excited to work with them. With this summer as well, we have so many really cool things you can't get anywhere else. Shakespeare
Yeah,
is
that's a nice one.
is a really good one. And our friend Beth is writing music for the first Shakespeare in the Park, which is really great.
That's
Like,
great.
she's
Yeah.
written original songs for it. And Shakespeare is free, and it's all over St. Louis, and it's an experience a lot of people can't get. So, we love that. We love Festival of Nations, which is such a
Yeah.
huge festival that brings together just an eclectic mix of human beings and cultures, that is wildly popular.
Hmm.
Pride STL is at the end of June.
That's
We're
a
going to have
fun
a big
one. Yeah.
presence out there this year. We're creating this artist village. So we're going to have, the best of St. Louis artists out there in one section. It brings 300,000 some odd people to downtown
Yeah.
St. Louis in a
Yeah. It's
weekend.
crazy.
Yeah. So we wanted to showcase some really great artists and to show people like, wow, look at these amazing things.
Hope you enjoyed that interview with Jay. He's incredibly enthusiastic about artists, about St. Louis creators, and it's really common in our world today for people to talk shit and not actually come through with anything. And they put their money where their mouth is, and we love working with people like that. So it's been a pleasure. And again, we want to invite you to come out to the Whiskey Ring, May 17th, Friday, a free show with Parker Ryan, Music for a Cause, kickoff party. You got independent promoter, an independent arts organization, and an independent business, the Whiskey Ring, all mixed together. So come on out and support. And if you're not a drinker like me, you could just hang out and watch the music. It'll be sweet. But thank you so much for checking this out. This has been episode 14 of the Backstage at Open Highway podcast. We'll see you here back shortly, a couple of weeks. Peace.